I love
Kit
the view from
farm.
Chang too. You can just barely see it in the background.
Oh,
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
oh,
whoa.
sticky.
You're getting really, really close. You go forward a little bit and then just tip up. There you go. Now I think if you stay where you are, but just go up. Yeah, you're good. Just go up a little bit, just straight up. A little bit more. Actually, I think right where you are is pretty good.
So
Target for mesh jump is there.
I put the target for the mass jump into the flotilla chat.
That probably belongs to FPS. How far is it? Okay, pretty close.
Alright, the dolphin, if you keep flying down, but keep...
there's no dolphin here. This is an orca.
Oh, sorry, the orca. Yeah. Keep flying down, but tipping up. You need to align a little bit
Yeah,
more with
you
my ship.
tip up a little bit.
Who's in the Corvette?
There you go. Now you can keep... There you go, perfect. Just keep going down a little bit. Just keep going down. Keep going down.
Can we have some quiet, please, for Yannick? Connect to his Twitch stream if you're not there.
Where's the link for the Twitch stream?
To your landing gear. Whoa, whoa, whoa. On Yannick's stream, yes.
And it looks like it's going all right. Fingers crossed. Famous last words, I know. But it's definitely a nice place to have it. There's a good array of ships. You've got the big guns like, you know, corvettes and cutters, to the very sort of traditional expedition fare of the Asp Explorers and crates of various kinds, anacondas as well. It's, as you probably hear in the background, various people getting ready to jump in the not too distant future. So the idea with this is that we usually sort of meet up, have fun at the beginning, which is kind of now, and after a little bit I do a very brief talk on the history of exploration in space, usually like real life, but you know, sometimes it's things that were dreamed of and but never happened, but this is very real. Obviously this is concerning ourselves with Apollo 15 and what led up to Apollo 15 as well. But we're all fans of space because that's why we're here. So I think with Elite, it's a very sort of time-consuming game. I mean, you wouldn't really be doing it unless you actually were quite committed. And yeah, because like I say, it's not something that you can really sort of learn in 5 minutes. Whichever way the orientation goes. The thing is, that's the thing with space, isn't it? There is truly no up or down. It's all relative to where you are. This is one flotilla group amongst several today. say so far we've got 500 different sign-ups. I think we're pushing like 550, 560 the last time I checked. It could well be more by now. Approximately. As I say, it's happening so fast at the moment. Thank you for everyone who has signed up to the expedition. You're all most welcome. Some of you I recognise from previous trips. A lot of you I have never met before, but you're all delightful.
Corvette needs to stop. He's pushing people around.
But obviously, for those of you who aren't so much aware of what we're doing, I mean, this is a 50-year anniversary celebration of the epic real-life Apollo 15 flight, which many have considered to be like the high watermark of exploration, human exploration of our solar system, as of now, the early 21st century. And you can see why. But that will become more and more apparent over time, if you're not already familiar with this particular leap into the unknown that they did. I think most people tend to be fairly familiar with what happened with Apollo 11, because obviously that's the most famous one. And understandably so, the first step on another world other than our own is epic and very rightfully so considered to be truly groundbreaking. But yeah, so this expedition is a trip of elite explorers winging our way across the galaxy, probably fairly near the bubble I describe it as being. We end up being, our trip's 19,000 light years. In a straight line it's only about 8,000, but we go the long way around for many things to see, many interesting, weird and wonderful sights along our way. Hence an expedition that's good for veterans and beginners alike. Also, we are doing both Horizons and Odyssey instances other than today, which is the launch, but for simplicity's sake everything's being done in Horizons for this particular meeting. Just to keep it nice and simple, just because we know the Intersing a lot better actually in Horizons than we do in Odyssey. We've tested a little bit for Odyssey, we just really don't know enough about it or how reliable it truly is, but with Horizons we have like years of sort of mental databases about what it is, how it behaves, etc, etc. Some pretty sort of beautiful paint jobs as well, all of these ships. Collided with a ship there in the distant camera. You can see the all-seeing eyes to the left there. That sort of red eye shape of Barnard's Loop. I think also with a few nebula contained within it, like the Orion Nebula. Well, from this perspective, that's the way it looks anyway. But it's an amazing sight. It truly is. But yeah, the celebration of Apollo 15 seemed to be something that I think a lot of people who know a lot about space exploration, the history of it, will probably recognise it as being an amazing trip. But yeah, I think Apollo 11, Apollo 13 tend to be more famous trips. Even Apollo 17 to some degree being the last one actually is more famous, but it shouldn't necessarily be so. But sometimes it happens, sometimes these things kind of fall through the cracks. To some degree anyway. Just look around a bit more. See the sort of gas giants over there. But the High Nebula itself just envelops us completely. And the other gas giant over to that side. But this is the thing about Elite, it is truly a beautiful game. Also, as been said in like the build-up and the literature to this expedition, this is something of a last hurrah as far as big expeditions are concerned in the Horizons sort of era, the Horizons tech, because obviously when Horizons came out it gave us the opportunity to land on all these planets that just weren't accessible before. You could never land on anything in the base game. So it opened up a whole new opportunity for these different trips to happen. Expeditions started from people, groups of friends travelling together, then built up to a bigger and bigger things. That's especially how the first Distant Worlds expedition started. Commander Eramus and a couple of friends were sort of travelling across the galaxy, and they just built up more and more people along the way. and it became kind of bigger and bigger and more organised, because I suppose it needed to be, really. I had over 1,000 commanders, and I think it was something like 3,000 commanders. Someone will probably correct me because I don't have the stats in front of me, but it's pretty epic. I mean, it's still the second biggest expedition in Elite history to date. And I don't think that's going to be beaten anytime soon, other than its successor, the even more epic Distant Worlds 2, which had 13,000 commanders in it. I know that one because I was on that one. First Distant Worlds, no. I was in game at the time and exploring, but I didn't really sign up in time for Distant Worlds 1, unfortunately. How's the audio coming across, everyone? Because at the moment I don't have much of a feedback mechanism because the internet connection isn't too great. Well, that's true about it in the chat room. Rebulizer, is it pronounced it? Yeah. 2024 we have another moon landing. Yeah, that's the idea. I hope so, anyway. I mean, Project Artemis is designed, obviously, to be the next mission to the moon, and 2025 is looking more likely. I think it will happen. There's so many, treaties and agreements have been signed, and so many contracts have been signed. I think it's just a matter of when, rather than if. I know there isn't the urgency of the Apollo era, when you had like two superpowers racing against each other to be the first one to do all kinds of things in space. To land on the moon was obviously like the greatest of goals. And now the Soviets were trying to do this as well as the Americans. They just didn't do it so publicly. I mean, whatever rights and wrongs of the political situations of the world of that time, America did all these things very publicly. I mean, if something failed, it was an American space disaster. We knew about it because it was done in public. In the Soviet Union, there were several failures that were never really public, not for years afterwards anyway, like the famous N1 disaster, where their equivalent of the Saturn V, the N1 rocket, which would have taken them to the moon if it had worked properly, and it blew up on the launch pad, and yeah, it was one of the largest non-nuclear explosions in history. We're talking something that makes like the mother of all bombs look like, a small catapult by a child, I suppose. They're talking about what is it, 7 kilotons of TNT that it was the equivalent of? If it all exploded. I don't think all the energy was released in that explosion. Still, that's another story for another day. How's everyone doing in chat? How's everyone doing out there?
Yes, I know you can hear the birds. There's
having a
something I can
great
do.
day?
I could go strangle them.
Hope we can
That would
provide
make
some
them stop.
entertainment for this evening, or morning, or wherever time
hear
it may
both
be,
the
wherever you
birds.
are.
I'm
in the
aware.
world. One of the great beauties.
Everybody can hear. That's why I
about
have
the
to do
elite
push to
community.
talk on my voice channels, because otherwise everybody else can hear the birds too.
The search stations down there, they have internet these days, so you never know. Yeah. Oh, it's all good, it's all good. Yeah, I'll begin my talk fairly shortly. Just bear with me for a moment and I will start rolling. Not jumping, but just with my talk. Right, bear with me just one moment. Okay. Right, we should have another starting soon image. I should still be coming across with the audio, but then we can go into it in a moment. Oh, hey there, Derek Johns. How's it going? Good to see you. Good to see some very familiar names. Some people I obviously don't know, but I will get to know no doubt. So welcome to you all. Right. Okay. I'll start the address in just 1 second. This is the thing about being an expedition organizer. So many people try to send messages to you for all kinds of things. Someone's just posted something quite interesting in the chat. I think it's a poem about space exploration. Yeah, that's cool, by Colonel Alfred Warden. Those of you who are in the Discord, the Crew Lounge, there's Chanks Atomi has posted a very nice poem, done by Colonel Warden, who was the command module pilot of Apollo 15. But anyhow, as they say, on with the show. Okay, the road to Apollo 15 is obviously quite a long and complex one, but I'm going to try and sort of summarize the sort of Apollo stuff, or the building blocks, in like quite a short burst. But I'll start it off at the beginning with President JFK, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, the political architect, you would say, of the whole Apollo program. But here we go.
We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone. And therefore, as we set sail, we ask God's blessing on the most hazardous and dangerous, greatest adventure on which man has ever embarked. Therefore, ask the Congress, above and beyond the increases I have earlier requested for space activities, to provide the funds which are needed to meet the following national goals. First, I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal, before this decade is out, of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth. No single space project in this period will be more impressive to mankind or more important for the long-range exploration of space, and none will be so difficult or expensive to accomplish.
Okay, yeah, JFK, very much one of the icons of 20th century politics. And definitely the sort of, he's obviously well known for being the main sort of impetus behind Apollo within America, or at least the sort of start of the Apollo program. But the reality was, it was even better than that, really. He was obviously the charismatic figure that did those amazing speeches and sold the idea of going to the moon to the American public, the world public as well, because it captured the imagination of the world, of course, and also to the US Congress, where the bills would be paid from, and they needed some convincing. But I think this helped, definitely. The good thing was, his Vice President, Johnson, was actually in charge of his Space Council. Now this will become very useful over time, but Johnson was a man of great persuasion and a huge fan of space, more so even than Kennedy was. Kennedy was a fan of space, there's no doubt about that whatsoever.
I'm sorry.
But
There's nothing I can do about the
ultimately,
birds.
it was Johnson who actually did most of the actual legwork behind the scenes to try and get NASA's sort of running with eventually what would lead through Mercury and Gemini into the Apollo program and beyond. This picture here in the main slide, you've got obviously Kennedy's at the center, and sort of second from the left you've got Johnson, and obviously at this point Johnson running a Space Council before Kennedy's death is kind of one of the key things about this, not just getting everything going in a sort of day-to-day sense, but when he became president in his own right, you had a president who was a massive space fan and was gonna absolutely completely see the Apollo program through as far as he could. Obviously he wasn't re-elected. He didn't actually stand for election again due to other controversies which we're not going to go into here, but as far as space is concerned, him and JFK were an amazing duo who propelled the Apollo program through a somewhat resistant Congress at times. Obviously there were people in Congress who were very much behind it, but there are a lot of people who weren't as well, and that will turn up in the story again a little bit later on. Still, on the subject of JFK and Johnson, there's some more images here. Obviously him, this is at the Cape Kennedy, Cape Canaveral, depending on the era. Him with some of the astronauts on the right. You've got Gordon Cooper, Gus Grissom,
That was a good
7.
pun.
With in the background you can
Yannick.
see
Good job.
an early version of the Gemini capsule I think that they're working on. This one I think it might be like 1962, maybe early 63. But I think there was definitely a time that Kennedy visited the Cape not too long before his assassination. I think this might actually be the one from this. But there's a few more images I think that are kind of, you know, pertinent for this. Here is, again, sort of Kennedy with an early version of the lunar module. We wouldn't really recognize it from what happened later on. It looks weird and sort of like an early sci-fi thing. Like maybe 1950s sci-fi. But yeah, it was that was literally an early mock-up of what they were working on for the lunar module. Forward to this waypoint, this launch waypoint is named Saturn for the reasons of the Saturn rockets that took, you know, our valiant astronauts to the moon. What you see in the background is Kennedy in the center there with the chief designer of the Saturn rockets, Wernher von Braun. Again, a somewhat controversial figure in his own right. But definitely a brilliant engineer and a very good sort of technical organizer is the word I would use. But what you see in the background is the first Saturn rocket, the Saturn 1. Like a prover for technology, really. But on the road to the moon, it wasn't just the Saturn rockets that were there. You had the first move into space with men. You had the Mercury program. This picture is the Mercury 7. A amazing group of men. Truly sort of legends, not just in America but around the world. As in probably the most like tested group of people, at least the tested pilots in history. Virtually every medical test known to man was performed upon them, and all exceptional people. A lot of them were considered to be mega geniuses as well, which is quite amazing. But yeah, these very brave people flew those early Mercury missions. This is a good example. This is Mercury Atlas, one of the first orbital Mercuries. But Mercury was only the first step along this road. Then you had Gemini. This is the second group of astronauts who were to star a lot in the Apollo landings later on. And then you've got a little picture of the Gemini capsule in the middle. Don't worry, this lecture won't go on for too long. It's not really a lecture, it's just like a sort of friendly chat more than anything else. At least I hope so. But continuing. Yeah, there's Gemini. I think there's an early Gemini test, probably 3 or 2. But either way, it's a very cool picture, I thought. So I thought I'd put some nice ones for Gemini. And that's the meeting of the 2 Geminis in space. This picture I really love, because it's doing on those early sort of docking experiments with the Agena. But just look at the background, and that's just amazing. But yeah, they can, through the Gemini program, they actually developed a lot of these technologies and techniques that they would use for Apollo, because they didn't really know how to do all these things. You know, to dock a spacecraft, to catch another one up in changing orbits, to change the shape of your orbit. You know, just all these things to spacewalk even, which was not understood at the time. Talking about spacewalk, there's a picture of a well-known man in the Apollo program. This is Mr. Buzz Aldrin. And this is the last Gemini mission. And he, quite late in the day, got this particular flight, excelled in it, did, to that point, the longest US spacewalk, and therefore, by doing so well, earned himself a position on the backup crew of Apollo 8, and then, famously, on Apollo 11. Back to the little bit of Saturn though, this is the first manned Saturn. This is the 1B which Apollo 7 went up on. Now this is kind of key to our story in many ways. As, again, something like 15 itself does get quite overlooked in the grand sweeps of history. Mostly because this was the first Apollo manned mission, and it came after the Apollo 1 disaster where unfortunately 3 astronauts burned to death in an early Apollo capsule. But the pressure was really on to NASA at this point. And basically, if the Apollo 7 mission had failed, Apollo was over. There was no way that Congress was going to keep bankrolling it. NASA itself may well have actually fallen as well. So the pressure on these guys was beyond extreme. I think in the history of NASA, only 2 missions had to go 100% right, or NASA itself was in deep doo-doo, if not the whole program cancelled. The first one was Alan Shepard, when long after you were going for obvious reasons. Apollo 7 is the other one. But they didn't just do well, they excelled. They smashed it out of the park so much that they didn't actually need some successive missions that they had originally planned to do after Apollo 7. And here's a picture of the crew of Apollo 7. There were some controversies with this as well, and they never flew in space again, any of them. But again, that's a story for another day. Quick picture of something from Apollo 7, the upper stage. Again, like testing various techniques for later Apollo missions. And now we get to the big guys. This, the Saturn V, the world famous booster, to this day is still the biggest launcher to ever propel humans into space, and the only one that's ever taken people to the moon. But on the back of the exceptional flight of Apollo 7, it allowed them to leap to the moon, to orbit the moon, earlier than anyone had anticipated, including the Soviets. It's one of the reasons they did this. So instead of the first thing you think, oh, we've got a new rocket here, we've got this really powerful Saturn rocket. First time out, let's send it around the Earth maybe. That was the original plan. High orbit test. You know, really, really far out orbit from the Earth, but still Earth orbital. And what happens is that they think, well, we could actually just go to the moon with this. Now, this may actually be NASA's bravest decision ever, because if you think about it, you've got an untested rocket with people. Okay, they've done some unmanned tests, but you never sent people up before. The first time you sent it into space, you send people around the moon. Now, these days, they would never be allowed to do that, but at the time, it was considered to be a pretty extreme risk. NASA were more confident than anybody else, but, you know, they really did well. They didn't land on the moon on Apollo 8, but they definitely were the first people to ever see another world up close by orbiting it. This is the gallant crew of it, which some of you may be familiar with. On the right-hand side, we have Jim Lovell, the very famous commander of Apollo 13, but this one, he was just the command module pilot. But still an amazing thing to do. Seen the moon before, he went on Apollo 13. And yeah, this is another sort of great moment of history, but hence the sort of theme for this waypoint. All these waypoints in the expedition have a theme. You probably notice there's different names, like Waypoint 1 Saturn, and there's different like crew members' names and other things that are connected with Apollo 15, so there always like a theme that I'm running with this. And hence like Saturn for today and the launch, because you know what better to launch with than the rocket itself. And this final image is, I think there was a poll in the very early noughties for what is considered to be the best photographic image of the 20th century, and this was picked. This is Earthlight. This was taken by the lunar module pilot on this particular flight, and it is the first time the Earth was actually viewed by people from another place, you know, another world. And you imagine seeing in that situation, you're in this spacecraft that's just brand new, you're the first test of it, and you see that, you see your own, everything you've ever known, you can put your hand up and it will obscure it. Think how they must have felt. They're amazing people for amazing times. But back to the present. Hopefully
Yannick's gone mute here. Don't know what that's about. Somebody's firing rockets. Looks like we have a target.
Okay, is that better? Okay, cool. I don't know what the HBO's Earth to the Moon. That's a great series. And,
Target's going to be
pointed out in the
towards
chat.
Barnard, so I'm going to
Yeah, we should be
assume
ready
it's
to
gonna be
get going in the near
sector
future. I just
here.
have to check a few things with different flotillas to make sure we're all
I
ready to get
guarantee
going.
that's going to be our target.
But yeah, there's so many things to do with this whole sort of era of Apollo and just the period of it. There's so much work. I mean, if you think about it, from the beginning, the first American in space was 1961.
Oh God.
And
Who
the
did
year we're
what?
talking about for Apollo 15.
Apparently the explosion was a little bit too
In
close
10
to them and a
years,
fragment hit
knowing
another ship.
nothing about how to handle a space
Um,
flight.
Reminiscent until
to
System Authority.
literally flying
Okay,
between
anybody
mountains
who's
across
wanted should
a lunar
probably be
mountain
getting out
range
of
to
this
land
instance.
on a planet
That
on
is
the
me.
moon.
I'm back
That's
on
a
my
hell of a step in 10 years. It's insane if you think about it. Yeah, even considering the money that they had, it's quite amazing that they managed to pull it off. Right, just bear with me a moment while I check in with various wings and flotillas. I think this one looks ready to go, doesn't it? Yep, I think wings are checking in. I'm just quickly checking it up. My own one seems to be okay. We've got 3-4 flotillas for today. We're trying to pack as many people into each one as we possibly can, so hopefully it'll be fine. Famous last words, I know. But, welcome to the slightly risky business of expeditions, potentially. It's all good. Okay, to everyone who's listening in the Discord and chat, signal to me if you're ready to jump in the near future. If we can try and do this in a synchronized way, it'll be better.
Are we all good here? Ready to go?
I think we're all good. I think we're all good here. I told
Um,
Yannick that.
We have the target system, everybody. It's the light in the middle of Barnard's over there. What is that? Some
Hind sector.
Hind sector FBX C16.
That's the one.
Okay. I will try and jump. Let's say the present time is 48 minutes past. Shall we set the jump for 55 minutes? Actually, let's jump on the hour. No, that's probably a bit too long, isn't it? Let's try and jump at 55 minutes
All right.
past. That might be the best thing.
According to their chat, we're going to jumping at 55, so 6 minutes.
So let's start off with a synchronized honk here. On my count of 3,
This is always the way. You just adapt
activate your
into these,
discovery scanners.
situations.
1, 2, 3.
Right, I'll go with Discord as well to have some fun with people.
That just lets them know we're coming.
I mean Discord voice, not Discord full stop. You know what I mean. There's always some
Honk
fun
heard
chatting.
round the galaxy.
Just rejoining my own wing in chat. as
They
well.
probably heard that
I
in
should say
Colonial.
flotilla, it's not. It's a wing of sorts, but you know.
I'm sure the Thargoids heard it and they'll be
Right.
there and waiting.
Yeah, I hope not.
Hello everyone.
Take my buds out of my.
Okay, I see a lot of people in the voice chat. Do we have everybody
Warning to
here
everyone, you're live on
in
stream
the
at
same
moment,
instance?
So watch what you say if it's a
I
bit,
don't think so.
you know, OTT.
We are in 4 different instances.
Yeah, try and keep it PG-13
At
if
least.
possible, but you know.
It can get kind of confusing because I'm watching your stream and now I'm hearing myself.
Oh yeah. It can be a little bit weird.
I'm gonna
Best thing to do
mute.
is turn. If you're actually in my flotilla, it's best to turn.
Turn,
the sound
not
down
mute,
on the
turn
screen
down
because
Yannick.
you're just hearing me anyway. So
I'll be right back. I got to do something
otherwise,
real
you're going to be echoing in your ears and yourself echoing in your ears as well. So.
Is anyone gonna click the
No, 6 minutes yet.
Jump 4 minutes now.
Yeah, at 55.
Yeah. At the moment, the jump should be at 55 minutes past. Get all wings to report in. Keep saying wings, it's flotillas, isn't it? You know, I've been reading too much Apollo stuff recently. This is part of the side effect of like being a big fan of space history.
Well, Vidius, we're getting a lot of feedback from you. We're picking up your speakers.
An amateur, the space historian. It'll be a fun career, yeah.
On PlayStation 4, we all
Yeah, well, we can hear Yannick's stream coming through you.
we did the countdown from it.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's
I think with
that's
this
fine
one,
if you want to
like,
just,
particularly being the
mute
launch
yourself in the
sequence, try
meantime.
and get
It's probably the
everyone doing it
easiest
at the
method.
same time.
Yep. I mean, we did the Capcom.
Yes,
Go.
yeah, it's better.
Setcom. Go. It was fun.
Yeah.
Everyone took a role. We all scripted it out and we recorded it and streamed it out. It was fun.
Mac has arrived, so I think
Okay, cool.
the instance is ready to go.
Yeah. Okay, I think most people are reporting that they're okay for 55. Spool up in my particular flotilla if you haven't already done so.
Okay, folks, spool up if you're not spooled up yet.
Frameshift charge detected.
When it's time to go, do not boost. Just put full throttle on 0.
C1-6.
And drop it in the next.
Okay.
I sort of picked a flotilla kind of at random.
Oh, fair enough. And I'm glad you're here.
Sitting in the target system,
Turned out
a little ways out from the sun,
Yeah, I thought
pointed
we were getting
from
overloaded, but
T-Tari,
I
so
think
hopefully I
it's
can
good
catch
point.
everybody
Slowing down
actually
like
coming
that.
out of
It seems we've
hyperspace.
actually sped up a little bit since then. Okay, we've got a couple of minutes still. Should be fine.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyone who's actually listening in from other flotillas, if you can't make it on 55, jump as soon as you can, but as many as you can, try and jump on 55.
So do we accelerate at 50?
To everyone that helped with the key binding issue, thank you. I have it
Once
resolved.
it reaches 0, yeah, once
Dear?
I say engage, or get going, whatever word I'm using, it's usually engage. You know, then
Can you hear the water running?
you don't have to boost. It's kind of sometimes dangerous to boost if you're too close to other people. If you've got space, then fair enough. But no, it's best to use your own judgment, use your judgment where you can and cannot boost into. Some ships don't even
Landing
have
gear
boosters.
retracted. Frameshift
Yeah,
drive
my
charging.
Anaconda literally can't boost.
Okay, then problem solved then.
All right, with 45 seconds to go.
Ready to engage.
– 20 seconds. 15. 10. 5. Oh,
2, 1, engage.
There's everybody coming in. Nate.
I think there's a few streamers we and covering this as well.
Cool. Thank you, everybody.
In,
I'm going
spread around different flotillas, but you see all the
to drop off
fireflies,
now.
it's always
And
up
those of you
command.
coming to the North American meet, I will see you in a few hours' time.
It is. I'm just
Now
showing
will we meet?
flying around
Good.
just to see the
Bye,
fireflies.
thanks.
So it's cool
Fair
to have
winds,
these
UK and
things
Europe.
in the same place at once. Wherever you go in the bubble or near the bubble, you see the all-seeing eye of Barnard's Loop. It follows you everywhere. That's what I'm pointing at right now.
Frameshift drive charging.
Now it's on to waypoint 2, which the information.
And with that, I'm gonna head on out.
4, 3.
What plastic packaging? What are you talking about? I just sat down in this chair. There's also, I was wondering if you guys can hear the water outside. The water feature is turned on. Oh. Uh-oh. We had the dropout noise and we did not drop out. We are continuing on into the darkness. Oh no! Ah!